What is going on, folks? Welcome back to another edition of the Fightful Wrestling Weekly. Here in just the dog days of summer, it is so hot. I'm sorry for any excessive background noise from my fan, from Tim's. Dude, it's just hot here in California. It is abysmal.
My AC's not wanting to cool anything down. It's like 85 degrees.
That's gotta be rough, man.
Horrible.
Luckily, after this, I'll probably head out and go walk around for a bit and
I'm gonna open
cool
all the
down.
freaking doors.
But before that, we're going to be talking about the Raw and Smackdown notes from this week. So let's go ahead and kick it off with a burp. That was a weak one. All right.
What burp?
No.
Anyways.
The working title for SmackDown Live this week was, quote, Emotional Response, which had a double meaning referring that referenced Daniel Bryan assaulting The Miz after the latter's promo, and AJ Styles addressing Samoa Joe's comments from last week. Monday Night Raw's title was, quote, Getting Rowdy, a play off of Rowdy Ronda Rousey's nickname. They also served as a former theme song for SmackDown header-created Road Dogg and R-Truth, who had a much bigger presence than normal this week on the Tuesday show. And if you guys listened to our SmackDown review this week, I had nothing but super high praise for R-Truth. I thought he did phenomenal. I wouldn't mind seeing him get a U.S. title run at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Continuing on here, kind of a pointless, funny little update from Sean here, but he says, last week after I mentioned that Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt were referred individually, so they weren't referred to as the Deleter of Worlds, they changed the name back to the Deleter of Worlds this week. So that just proves that WWE and their creative team are watching our shows. Hello. Hi. Can I get some free tickets? But those were the Raw and SmackDown notes.
Also, you're not gonna talk about Foley's son here?
Oh, that's right. We can talk a little bit about a Dewey Foley, a very, very loving young chap who has a job that I wouldn't mind at any point in my life. So it's been this way for a while now. But Dewey Foley is often working as a writer on the road for WWE, which is a huge step up from the creative assistant job he was brought back to do way, way back in the caveman years of 2015. God, that just feels so much longer than it sounds like.
Yeah.
For example, he contributed as a road team writer to a couple of backstage shots this week that included the Bar and the Bludgeon Brothers. That's a
nice.
Pretty cool fact, especially for Dewey. That's awesome.
I think what it is he got noticed. I think he was writing his own, like, fan fiction kind of stuff on a blog.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody within the company may have... This is a story I heard. I don't know if it's 100% true. Somebody saw it, contacted Mick. Mick was like, oh, I don't know, talk to Dewey about it. They got him an interview. He ended up getting an assistant job, and he was just, I'll take this assistant job, and I'll do whatever I have to just keep growing and growing and growing, learning, and eventually maybe climb the ladder within WWE to become a writer. Because that was his ultimate goal, was to be a writer for WWE.
Yeah, so if you want to be a writer for the WWE, just start making fan fiction. That's
Exactly.
it. That's all you got to do. Not the weird, like, smut kind that you see on the internet.
Not that. Amber Rollins.
Tim?
Nick?
Who do we got this week for an interview? Because I didn't forget the name of them. That's why I'm doing this
Well,
kind of transition.
It's an interesting one. It's got a lot of talk this week. It's Kiera Hogan.
Ooh, yes.
It's got a lot of talk about her comments about one Ember Moon.
Yeah,
check it out.
This should be very interesting, so I hope you guys enjoy. Here you go. Now.
In fact, I'm probably the reason she did it, which is, it actually was, I try not to look at it in a negative way, but in the end it is negative because it's something that I did first. That's something that I brought to my company first, and even now since she's done it, because she debuted it at NXT TakeOver Mania weekend, and I remember, I watched TakeOver and I saw her come out, and my heart literally dropped because I was just like, I knew what was coming after that, and I've gotten tweets, DMs, comments, people just saying, oh, you're the rip-off version of Ember Moon. Oh, you're Impact's version. Oh, you're the cheap version of Ember Moon. So now because she's taken something that I worked so hard to make my own, I'm now the rip-off version of her. So in retrospect, it's just like, you stole something from me and, doesn't acknowledge that she did, because of course she's probably not, but it's just like, I worked so hard to get to where I am as me being the girl on fire, as this being my brand, and now I'm the rip-off version of her. It hurts me. It hurts, all of the work that I put into this character. And, you know, like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep making myself different. I'm going to keep making myself stand out. Like, and I even know they started calling Becky Lynch the girl on fire. Like, they even started using my hashtags and stuff. So
do you think that's something that came from them or like WWE, or do you think
definitely not. Definitely not. Definitely not. I know that they watch. I know that they do.
Oh, I meant them as a company as opposed to the individuals, Becky Lynch and Ember Moon.
I think the Girl on Fire thing came from WWE. Like, they gave that to her, but Ember Moon, I guarantee you, she probably came up with it herself and was like, oh, you know, I think this will be a good idea because I'm doing the eclipse thing or whatever she's doing. Like, I don't know. Like, I know she came up with that. Like, she was at my tryout, and we talked. I saw her sign her contract. She cried when she signed her contract. I was there for that moment. And like, after the tryout, she called me or texted me and was like, hey, I want to help you get booked on shows, blah, blah, blah. And after that, I had never spoken to her. And that was, like, almost 4 years ago.
And if you guys want to see the full interview, head over to, where else? Fightful.com. So, we're going to talk about a former WWE superstar here. And Sean had a little bit to write about him. So, Tim, take it away, big guy.
So Austin Aries. Austin Aries was made available ahead of his Impact Heavyweight Championship match at Slammiversary. I asked him about differences in regimes. He's been around for 3 pretty key ones during his time within Impact. He said that admittedly, politics have caused him to not see eye to eye with Impact and TNA in the past, but this regime is handling things much differently and has a positive, forward-thinking people in charge. According to Aries, the locker room is way different. Aries also jokingly suggested that Jay Lethal stole his Paparazzi Championship Series bowling trophy that he was awarded by Kevin Nash. He doesn't still have it, but he said he did. He proudly displays it. If you've never watched the Paparazzi production stuff from TNA over a decade ago, it's worth going back to seeing. It's pretty funny stuff.
It's pretty funny. And I want to mention something. So I want to kind of talk about 2 things very quickly here. One being Austin Aries and one being TNA Impact. So number 1, Austin Aries is a clear example of just because you were in the WWE and you leave doesn't mean that you're screwed, and just because you were in the WWE, you know, that doesn't mean that that's the last place that you have to go before you've reached gold. And this before you reach gold is before you've reached kind of the promised land.
Right.
And that ties into Impact a little bit more because Impact has improved its product so much over the year. You know, it all kind of kicked off, in my opinion, with that broken Matt Hardy stuff. And then from there, you just saw a kind of a string of improvements, and it's getting each and every day. There's something from Impact that gets more and more impressive, which is really, really good. You now have, I feel like, at this point in 2018 in August, Impact is a legitimate threat to WWE when it comes to I think so, when it comes to pure enjoyment. Because when you look at that product, they have great matches, they work with a lot of these independent guys, they're able to get some of your favorites on there, giving them in a national broadcast, you know, platform.
I don't know how national it is. I mean, I know a lot of people that do not get pop.
Yeah, that's true, and I mean, that's fine. There's always other ways to watch it, but
right.
It's a lot more accessible than a PWG show.
Well, that's on purpose, kind of.
Exactly, but it gives these guys a chance to see what it's like to be with the cameras on them on kind of a big stage. And if this keeps improving this much, I see TNA being a legitimate threat to the WWE.
Hey.
What's up?
It's not TNA anymore.
Yeah, Impact. I want to call it TNA. It's fun because TNA was like the early days of TNA. You want to
hear a funny TNA story about me as a kid?
Sure.
I might have told you this before. So when TNA first started, you know, I was searching it on my computer.
Naturally.
And I was young, so whenever I would do something on the computer, my parents would go and check what I was doing on the internet.
Okay.
And they were searching the search history and like, why does this say TNA? We know what that stands for. Are you looking up naughty things? I was like, no, it's wrestling. They're like, no, WWE's wrestling. I was like, no, it's another wrestling company. So finally, like, the website loaded, and they're like, oh, okay, you're telling the truth.
You know what's fun to me is that your parents knew that. That's weird, dog.
WWE?
Yeah, that's
well,
weird.
My
TNA, they knew what the initial of TNA meant. in a sexual context.
Well,
what are your parents doing over there, bud? Don't tell me. I don't know.
My dad's got stacks of Playboys.
Oh, God. But to kind of tie this up with a nice little bow, I think Impact has really, really shaped up, and I'm genuinely excited to see what happens next. With him.
They've grown immensely, as we saw at the Slammiversary pay-per-view. All but maybe one match was bad. I mean, good. They had... I didn't care, and a lot of people were in the same. Didn't care for the Knockouts championship match. But, I mean, every other match wasn't bad. I mean, every other match was 3 stars or better.
Yeah, I genuinely think so. I think it was great. Speaking of another thing that's great, not as great as our podcast.
Nope.
Of course. But The List and Your Boy, it's another good podcast. Which one's The List? Which one's Your Boy?
Jimmy's The List. Sean's
Why is he
Your
list?
Boy.
Why is
That's how it's introduced.
Why is he The List? What does that mean?
Because he's always got the list of topics. I don't know, written down. I don't know.
What are nicknames?
We'll have to ask him. I don't know.
I don't know. The glasses and the screamy?
Sure.
Why not? But we're going to send you over to a clip from The List and Your Boy. Enjoy, and we'll see you guys next week.
Have a good one.
Let's talk about All In.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something, Sean. You know that I am not a big fan of the Young Bucks in terms of their wrestling, in terms of their character. 20 super kicks a match. I know you always say that's the gimmick. I don't like it. I've never been entertained by it. But I've always told you that I respect them for their business acumen. And I respect the fact that they took a YouTube series, turned it into a big selling T-shirt, multiple T-shirts for that matter.
A vehicle to get a dozen people over at any given time.
Right. And I very much respect what they've been able to do. This All-In show that's coming up, this thing is pioneering, and this thing is unprecedented. And those guys deserve a lot of credit for being able to get this done, because when you look at what's happening, it's really unprecedented. There's no other word that I can really use. So let's talk about it. So I can't recall ever, and you tell me if I'm wrong, ever an independent show coming together as a result of a YouTube series, selling at a 10,000-seat arena, getting a national television deal for a pre-show, having multiple promotions come together and have talent represented for multiple promotions. Has this ever happened? I don't think so.
Not to this degree. I mean, we've had like the super clashes and stuff like that, and when worlds collide back in the day, which was, gave us that great, I think it was Art Barr and Eddie Guerrero tag match. But
they had television back then, right?
I think it was on pay-per-view.
No, but I'm saying that the promotions involved had television.
Yeah.
Right?
But I mean, a lot of the people that are on this show, they have television, but I mean, the world's just so different now.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing 0 Hour, which is their pre-show on WGN. That's a big move for a couple reasons. I happen to have a couple connections at WGN, and they were expecting to likely jump into the pro wrestling field due to the Tribune Sinclair thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some within WGN that aren't that excited about that, because you may remember they have done pro wrestling a couple times. Blast Off in the mid-'90s and Superstars in the late 2000s, I think. And both of which kind of started off with Vince McMahon putting some big names on there and then pretty quickly fizzled out.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were to get back into that, they don't really want this. So this is kind of like a trial, I think.
Yeah, but don't forget that Saturday morning show. There's going to be a Saturday morning show on WGN starting in September.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the promotion, but they're going to be doing a Saturday morning show, so that's another foray into pro wrestling.
We've seen this happen before. Pop TV with Paragon Pro Wrestling before they picked up Impact. Mm-hmm. How about TNN with ECW before WWE came along? This isn't like a new thing that's happened where they dip their toes in the water, where they jump all the way in. What they have been able to do, and this is going to be on pay-per-view, Fight, Honor Club.
Yep.
So I'd say David Tees, who's going to be covering it's probably getting it on the Honor Club. So your boy is stuck paying $40 for it, but whatever.
I'm sorry, who's paying $40 for it?
You are, but anyway.
So
hey, I'm just saying, expect it on my invoice. What these guys have been able to do.
If anything, he's going to charge me for the free hour too.
I will.
Yeah.
You know what? I do have a DirecTV bill. You better believe that when UFC announced they were getting off FS2, I chopped that package down immediately. I was like, we're done. Get that one off of there. But anyway, the elite show that they have, not to mention they own that name, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
They own the elite name. They were smart enough to go out and be like, okay, if we ever do make the move, and I don't know if that's the motivation, but somebody on the FightfulSelect.com Q&A podcast, subscribe now, asked me how I would introduce them in WWE, and I was like, well, they own their name.
Mm-hmm.
You could just bring them in as the elite.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I mean, they would
smart.
have to. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't the rumor, I guess, about Vince McMahon, if you have national TV exposure, we'll keep your name.
Pretty
Right?
much.
And that's
Pretty
why
much.
they kept Samoa Joe. It's why they kept AJ Styles. It's why they kept CM Punk. If they brought them in, they would absolutely call them the Young Bucks, and they would absolutely call them the Elite. I think. I mean, you'd be dumb if you don't. But to me, this show is it's a reflection of society today, and the power of the internet, and less reliance on broadcast television. It's also, I think, a reflection on wrestling today in terms of the unity between promotions.